Now she's going to kind of roll her whole shoulder and arm up and gets the crank. And again, it compromises both the elbow and the shoulder. Ude Garami from the downward position. There are two primary positions doing Ude Garami. There are other ways to do it, but there are two primary positions, up or down. And in the down position, instead of my hand being up here, my hand will be down here. Okay, if I'm the victim, if I'm the uki, having it done to me. So let's look at this. All right, she's got her elbow still in the crank of the, up there, okay. Now, she's figure four. Can you kind of lift her head up? Can you see that figure four she's got, everybody? Okay, so she's trapped his arm, okay, and her elbow is jammed in his hip. Okay, her elbow's jammed in his hip right now, okay? So that's, before we had it jammed in his neck in the upward version, now it's jammed in his hip, okay? So that's her anchor. That's her anchor. All right, so when she does this, see how she's trapping here, okay? Now, when she makes the crank, when she lifts up on his elbow, now she's going to grab her wrist real tight, grab his wrist real tight. Now, she's going to kind of roll her whole shoulder and arm up and gets the crank. And again, it compromises both the elbow and the shoulder, okay? Now, if he's really a strong guy, okay, he'll try to power his way out of it. We were talking about this before, try to force his way out of it. A way for him to keep him from doing that, okay, is for her, when she does this, is to keep, with her hand here on his wrist, keep pulling the wrist in close to his body as much as you can, where you can still get a nice figure four. You don't want to do it so much you can't work your hands and make the figure four, but she's got to get it in tight to keep him from pulling his arm free, okay? Now, the more she cranks with her elbow up, the less likely he'll want to pull his arm out because it hurts his shoulder too. Okay? So now she's doing this, go ahead and do this from the winning time. Okay, so she's starting from a pin here, okay? So what she's going to do, she's going to take her arm, she's going to pull his arm down. See how she grabs her arm, her hand on his arm, elbow here? Now she's going to quickly switch over her head and form that figure four and get the crank. Okay? So it's slightly different than if it were doing with his elbow up. So look at, if she was doing it elbow up, it'd be like this, right? Okay? Okay, now elbow down, or fist down, you know, hand down, it's like this. Okay? Can you lift up there? Can you see the figure four, everybody? All right. Wrist here. She grabs her own wrist and she cranks up. And she cranks. So that's the Ude Garami in a downward position. It's where his hand is pointing, it tells the position up, position down. Okay? Just do the Ude Garami and then the arm. Okay. So she's there, she grabs the arm, traps it, controls it, and she works it from there, gets the crank. Okay? So you may have that preference. Instead of doing the upward direction, you can do the downward direction. It's totally your preference. Some people like one more than the other, or it's just an opportunity, whatever might happen. The arm might be there, so you crank it, catch them there. So, you know, a lot of people do have a preference they like when they do it. All right?